Whistling 5 Anarchic Productions proudly presents Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s stories, as told by Andrew Brammer. Hello and welcome. The story you are about to hear is written and told using its original source materials, scribblings and scratchings from the scrawls of Stumpy, found within Stumpy Sanderson's time capsule, which was buried in 1979 and then unearthed in 2019. The story is told in the first person, as I, just like Stumpy, witnessed at first hand the momentous events which it recounts. So let's park up our rally choppers and tomahawks and take a ride back to 1975 for the Immortal Chin. Who's the one who's the best at art? The Mighty Chin. The art class's shining star. The Mighty Chin. That's the song a few of us in the know used to sing in the playground back in 1975. And this is the story of why we sang it. Mickey Metcalfe's chin was a thing of awesome wonder. A facial feature of hideous beauty. A huge bulging protuberance that resembled the bulbous front of a BEA cargo plane, and to which small crowds would flock to marvel at its breathtaking presence. To us boys, Mickey's chin truly was the eighth wonder of the world, complemented by his trademark elongated grin, teeth that resembled the keyboard of a grand piano, and a mop of dark, unruly, bohemian hair. Now, Mickey's chin was obviously a hereditary trait, for the same wondrous facial feature was also shared by both his mum and dad. After all, they do say that great chins attract. He also had a younger brother and an even younger sister, who both sported similar magnificent protrusions, all produced from the Metcalfe family's conveyor belt of chins. This led to the three siblings being nicknamed by some as Big Chin, Middle Chin, and Little Chin. But to us, Mickey was simply known as the Mighty Chin. This was not only because of his great jawline extension, but also for his artistic exploits, the extraordinary and singular talents that he possessed for anything creative, and for the astonishingly anarchic and subversive ways he applied these wonderful gifts. Because during his years at middle school, the Mighty Chin had produced various incredible works of art, all concocted, developed, and crafted in secret, that had then, as if by magic, appeared at the end of each term in prominent locations around the school, having been wondrously and mysteriously placed there overnight. As word went like lightning round the school, telling of the birth of a new masterpiece, huge flocks would gather to roar and roll with laughter at each illustrious work, for each one of these wonders had been unleashed to corrode the credibility of certain targeted teachers. Primarily, the tyrannical triumvirate of Mr. Jensen the headmaster and his two sadistic deputy heads, Miss Wake and Mr. Kemp, who, in our and others' opinion, all merited the ridicule and mirth that was heaped upon them by the Mighty Chin's works of genius. Too late would Jensen, Kemp and Wake always arrive on the scene with their cohort of thugs to eventually get these tours de force removed from view. These works of art included a superb and mid-sized oil painting replica of the Mona Lisa, in which the Mighty Chin had replaced Mona Lisa's face with the ghastly toad-like features of Miss Wake, titling the painting Moaning Wake. This painting had been hung in the main hall before final assembly, something the teachers had failed to notice until half the school had walked in and witnessed the ghastly visage, everyone doubling up with laughter and full-on mirth. Then there was a huge oil and chalk pastel of Mr. Kemp, that sadist with the coal scuttle haircut and Hitler moustache, whom the Mighty Chin's picture represented in full grey Reich Marshal uniform, together with an accompanying iron cross. This picture was hung in the main hallway of B Block, again ensuring magnificent exposure. And finally, that great stone sculpture that had been miraculously placed outside the art block. This masterpiece was the Mighty Chin's greatest work to date. A cross between the image of the lovers from the James Bond Live and Let Die tarot cards and Rodin's famous nude bronze sculpture, it showed both Jensen and Wake, about whom there had long been rumours, clinched together in a passionate embrace that left very little to the imagination. After the first of these masterpieces appeared, Jensen had put in place extra security measures, but each and every time the Mighty Chin managed to outwit such attempts, and even though Jensen, Kemp and Wake all had the Mighty Chin right at the top of their list of suspects, due to his glowing and outstanding reports and achievements from art classes, they were unable to pin a whiff of anything whatsoever on him, for every masterwork had been signed, not with his real name, but with just 3 letters. TMC. Only a select few of us knew these stood for the Mighty Chin. But there was one particular work of art, the Mighty Chin's last, that was to achieve that holy grail that is surely the quest of every great artist, immortality. And this is how it was achieved. It was the Thursday of the final week of the school year, which, as he was in the year above us, was the Mighty Chin's last year at school, whilst we still all had another year of torture to endure. And amidst the usual anarchy and mayhem that accompanied this final week, those of us in the know had been wondering just what the Mighty Chin had up his sleeve. What parting masterpiece would he leave as his final legacy? Clearly on edge, the teachers were all on high alert, and Jensen had even laid on extra security measures and prefects to prevent the placement of any subversive masterpiece. But there were also worrying rumours that the Mighty Chin was struggling for inspiration, that his artistic mojo was somehow not in harmony with the anticipation that was brewing. Worrying rumours that this time he was leaving things really late, and that, despite there now only being 1 day left of school, he hadn't even begun his final masterpiece. This artistic block he articulated to us up on the school field at lunchtime, as, after we had all finished our spam fritters and concrete jam roly-polies, he joined Stumpy Sanderson, Puffer Patterson and I, as we all took turns, puffing on our Piccadilly number 7s. I must admit I'm struggling this time, lads. I just don't know how I can top what I've already done. How I can leave a legacy. Just as we started to all join in to talk about legacies and inspiration, Stumpy exclaimed, "Trouble, boys! Kemp spotted us!" And yes, despite our well-camouflaged position, Mr. Kemp, like some U-boat commander, had indeed spotted us from his watchtower with his telescope, and was now bellowing through his loud hailer, "You smokers, to my office, now!" So that's how the Mighty Chin, Stumpy, Puffer and I found ourselves in Kemp's office, as we lined up in our high waisters and stacked platform shoes, waiting to hear our sentence, breathing in the heavy varnished smell of the dark and foreboding office furniture. Kemp had his back to us, staring out of his office window at the broad and voluminous oak tree that stood in the quadrangle. Every day for the last 15 years, I have looked out at that mighty oak, and will do so for my remaining 15 years at this school. And do you know why I like to look at it? Why it gives me such solace? No, sir, we answered, all doing our best to look and sound philosophically intrigued. It's because it stands there, solid, steadfast, unbending, something to be relied upon. It acts as a counterbalance for me, a sanity check. For I know that whichever one of you reprobates stand before me, I only have to put up with each of your wretched faces for 2 or 3 years at the most. However, that great tree stands there, permanent, unmoving, immortal. That great tree reminds me to always stand firm amidst the howling winds of anarchy, and that whichever one of you cretins comes and goes, I, like that great oak, must remain steadfast to what this school and its values stand for. And that is the point. Whereas as for you lot, what is the point? At this, Kemp turned round to face us, while Stumpy, Puffer and I stood, baffled at his weird and almost poetic philosophising. Had he been drinking? But nodding in agreement. Yes, sir. What is the point? For whilst we could not dispute the monumental majesty of the great dark-barked tree, we could not quite see where Kemp was heading with all this, and thought it best and safer to play along. The Mighty Chin's response, though, was a different matter altogether, seemingly writing his own death warrant, for he was now sporting an even huger grin than normal, his piano-key teeth offering a splendid counterpoint to the magnificent protuberance of his chin. "Metcalfe, you think this is funny, lad?" Kemp roared, taking this as an ideal opportunity to vent off his filled powder keg of suspicion. "You think I don't know about you and your exploits? And I'm not talking about your smoking on the school field, lad. Don't you think I know you're the culprit behind those outrages and abominations that appear at the end of every term? I tell you for one, boy, that I am sicker than ever to the back teeth of seeing your face, and I rejoice that, after tomorrow, I will never have to lay eyes on it ever again." "I don't know what you mean, sir. What outrages and abominations?" The Mighty Chin continued to grin. But now we, us in the know, knew what that grin really meant. He had at last, as if by a miracle, somehow received his artistic inspiration. Kemp's mercury continued to rise. "For you, lad, it's retribution. Not only for your smoking, but let's call it a preemptive strike, just in case you do have something planned for tomorrow." And he produced from his desk his evil cane. "You other three, get out, and you can see me at 9:15 tomorrow morning, when I'll give you lot a punishment you won't forget for the whole of the summer holidays." After Stumpy, Puffer and I trooped out, we waited with keen and eager anticipation in the main playground for the Mighty Chin, who, when he emerged, and despite having just been given 6 of the best, still sported that huge trademark grin. "I've got the answer, lads. I've found my inspiration. Tomorrow I'm going to give Kemp a tour de force he'll never forget. Something to remember me forever by. With what he said in there, he has sown the seeds of his own misfortune. He has unwittingly become my muse. I'll create a piece of work for that piece of work." And with that, the die was set. For the rest of the afternoon, and all that evening up the Wreck, we wondered just what the Mighty Chin had planned. And when we all met up the next morning for our walk to school, Puffer, filled with obvious excitement, his plump personage looking like an overripe plum waiting to burst, could hardly wait to tell us what he knew. And being our school's greatest actor, he orated in his finest thespian delivery. On my paper round early this morn, I espied that fine fellow the Mighty Chin, returning from the school and wearing a tan pair of overalls and carrying a heavy craftsman's bag of woodworking tools. He quickly told me he had been up all night and was now heading back home for a kip, and would be bunking off this, his very last day of middle school. With these great lines from Puffer, we knew something special was indeed in store. This was only confirmed when we reached the school and saw a huge and excited throng surging forward, a hive of exuberance, trying to get to the quadrangle, but being kept back and restrained by a line of teachers who had gathered like a cordon of riot police. "What's happened?" Stumpy asked an urchin. "Haven't you seen?" the beaming and joyous face replied. "Something wonderful has happened." We saw a couple of friendly teachers walking away, suppressing laughter, whilst one of Jensen's henchmen came up to us, his brutal face a mixture of barely suppressed rage, bewilderment, and panic. "Have any of you seen Metcalfe?" What on earth was going on? Unfortunately, we would have to wait a bit longer to find out, as we still had our 8:45 appointment of death to keep with Mr. Kemp. And as we made our way into admin block and along the deserted corridor to his office, we saw his office door was open. We knocked. No answer. We knocked again. Still no answer. And then, peering in, we saw Kemp, his back to us, standing rigid, as still as a statue, staring fixedly out of his window. "Sir, we were told to see you at 9:15. No answer. "Sir?" No answer. Cautiously, we entered. And looking past Kemp and through his window, we saw the reason for his frozen form. For there stood the mighty and majestic great oak tree, but now with some astonishing and shocking differences to its broad and rough-barked trunk. Carved into it, at Kemp's exact head height, like some huge gruesome cross between a green man, a hideous gargoyle, and one of the great granite faces of Mount Rushmore, was the most intricate and astonishing replica of the face and enormous chin of the Mighty Chin, staring straight into Kemp's office. And underneath were chiselled into the tree 3 immortal letters, TIC, which, because we were all on the same wavelength, we knew in an instant now meant that the Mighty Chin, TMC, had indeed attained that artistic holy grail, and for all time had left his lasting legacy. He had now become the Immortal Chin. And Mr. Kemp, he would now be condemned to spending his remaining 15 years at the school, forced to look out onto that extraordinary face, which only yesterday he had said he was glad that he would never have to lay his eyes on ever again. As Kemp still stood, rooted and in a state of complete stunned shock, we sidled backwards out of his office, thus dodging whatever punishment he had planned for us, and that he had told us we wouldn't forget for the whole of the summer holidays. And when, in September, we came back for the new school year, having over the summer holidays digested the enormity of the Mighty Chin's final achievement and goodbye, a new song was sung in the playgrounds and on the school field, by all of us in the know. Who's the one who's the best at art? The Immortal Chin. The art class's shining star. The Immortal Chin. Thank you for listening to this episode of Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s Stories. And don't forget to listen out for Stumpy and Gang's next adventure. For further information on all things Stumpy Sanderson, please visit www.stumpysanderson.co.uk. And you can also check out the Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s Stories YouTube channel. But before we saddle up again on our rally choppers and tomahawks, let's take a listen to the strange little song that was specially written by Stumpy to accompany this podcast's tale. This song is performed for us now by Stumpy Sanderson's 1970s acoustic archive. Let's rock! Who's the one who's the best at art? The Mighty Chin. The painting class's shining star. The Mighty Chin. So you can keep your Picasso, your Salvador Dali too. You can keep your Rembrandt and Renoir, and give me the Mighty Chin. Who's the one who can create all day? The Mighty Chin. Marble, wood and all forms of clay. The Mighty Chin. So you can keep your Barbara Hepworth, your Henry Moore too. You can keep your Bertel Thorvaldsen and give me the Mighty Chin. The Mighty Chin's the one for you and me. He's the greatest artist that we'll ever see. He's the Mighty Chin. Sure is, and he's groovy, man. Yeah, who's the one whose works will last? The Mighty Chin. Monuments of timeless art. The Mighty Chin. So you can keep your bio tapestry, your 7 wonders of the world. You can keep your Mount Rushmore and give me the Mighty Chin, the Mighty Chin. 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 That sure is one heck of a chin.